You know, everyone loves to talk about goals. Big dreams, big plans, big promises. But here's the truth I learned early in my life. Goals can give you direction, but they don't give you results. It's not the goals that build wealth, it's the habits. The little daily disciplines that may not look like much today, but add up to something extraordinary tomorrow. I once set all kinds of goals. To make more money, to read more books, to get in better shape. But until I built habits to support those goals, they were just wishes written on paper. When I was broke, I used to dream of success. I thought if I just wished hard enough, one day it would happen. Then I realized that wealth isn't created in a day, it's created daily. Every small act of discipline, saving $1, reading a few pages, listening to a new idea, compounds over time. It's like planting seeds. One seed doesn't make a harvest, but 1,000 tiny efforts, repeated with consistency, create abundance. You see, success doesn't respond to emotion, it responds to discipline. Anyone can be inspired for a day, but it's what you do when you're not inspired that determines where you'll end up. If you save every week, invest every month, and learn every day, eventually your habits begin to serve you automatically. You don't have to think about saving, you just do it. You don't force yourself to learn, you crave it. That's when success starts to work in your favor. So, don't just set goals, build the habits that make those goals inevitable. Wealth, freedom, health, and wisdom all come from the same source. Consistent, quiet, daily discipline. That's where real transformation begins. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned about success is this: you can't think your way into wealth, you have to act your way into it. Thinking is important, yes, but it's doing that teaches you. Too many people wait for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect certainty before they begin. And while they wait, opportunity passes right by. I used to be that way too, full of ideas but short on action. Then I realized that progress begins when you're willing to fail forward. When I first started in business, I made more mistakes than I could count. I'd invest in the wrong things, trust the wrong people, or speak at the wrong time. But every mistake carried a lesson, and each lesson became part of my foundation. I began to see failure not as defeat, but as tuition, the price I paid for wisdom. And what a valuable education that turned out to be. You see, failure doesn't destroy you unless you let it stop you. If you're willing to learn, failure becomes a stepping stone. The quicker you fail, the quicker you learn what doesn't work, and that brings you closer to what does. The people who move the fastest in life aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who recover the fastest, adjust their course, and keep going. Action refines knowledge, and knowledge refines action. That's the cycle that builds mastery and wealth. So, stop waiting for everything to be perfect. Start where you are, take the risk, make the move. If you stumble, good, that means you're learning. Remember, experience is the best teacher, and failure is the tuition you pay for wisdom. The faster you learn, the faster you grow. And growth is where wealth begins. When I first started chasing success, I acted like a man who didn't have much, because I didn't. I made small decisions, took small risks, and thought small thoughts. Then one day, I learned a principle that changed everything. You have to act like the money is already yours. Now, that doesn't mean pretending or spending recklessly. It means carrying yourself with the mindset and responsibility of someone who's already wealthy. When you start thinking like a steward of abundance, your decisions change immediately. I began asking myself different questions. Not can I afford this, but would a wise investor choose this? Not do I deserve success, but am I acting like someone who honors success? That shift in mindset transformed my actions. I stopped wasting money on things that didn't matter and started investing in things that built my future. Education, assets, relationships. Because when you think like a wealthy person, you realize money is not something you chase, it's something you attract through discipline and responsibility. You see, most people wait until they have wealth to develop a wealth mindset. But that's backwards. The mindset comes first, the money follows. If you start behaving today as if you're already entrusted with abundance, you'll begin making choices that protect, grow, and multiply it. You'll handle every dollar with care, you'll plan instead of react, and you'll see opportunities where others see obstacles. When I began treating my few dollars as if they were millions, life slowly began to trust me with more. Wealth is not a reward for luck. It's a reward for readiness. So act ready. Carry yourself as if you've already been chosen to manage great abundance. Because when you do, you're training yourself for the moment when that abundance finally arrives. I learned early in life that how you treat a little is exactly how you'll treat a lot. If you can't manage $1, you'll mishandle 10,000. Most people think that discipline comes after wealth, but it's actually what creates it. I used to tell myself, when I make more money, I'll start saving, I'll start budgeting, I'll start investing. But I discovered the truth. You don't wait for more money to build better habits. You build better habits to earn more money. I remember the days when I barely had $10 to my name. It didn't feel like much, but I started treating it with the same respect I would a fortune. I'd sit down, plan where each dollar would go, and save a small portion no matter how tight things were. That simple practice taught me discipline, patience, and appreciation, the very same qualities required to manage wealth. And when more money came, I didn't need to change who I was. I already had the habits in place. You see, money amplifies who you are. If you're careless with a little, you'll be reckless with a lot. If you're organized with a little, you'll be efficient with a lot. It's not about the amount, it's about the attitude. The wealthy don't magically become responsible when they get rich. They were responsible long before the wealth arrived. They counted every dollar, invested every bit of spare change, and respected every opportunity, no matter how small. So, handle every dollar like it's a seed for your future. Record it, save it, direct it with purpose. When you can manage the small sums with wisdom and gratitude, life begins to trust you with larger amounts. Treat small money like big money, and soon the big money will come looking for you. One of the greatest turning points in my life came when I decided to stay curious. I began asking questions instead of pretending I already knew the answers. Curiosity, I discovered, isn't just a trait of the intelligent, it's the foundation of the wealthy. Every stream of income I built, every idea that turned into opportunity, started with a simple question. How does that work? Or what can I learn from that person? Curiosity is the spark that lights the fire of growth. I remember sitting in a small seminar years ago, broke and uncertain about my future. The speaker said something that changed me. The difference between the poor and the rich is what they're curious about. That hit hard. The poor are curious about entertainment, who won the game, what's trending, what's on sale. The wealthy are curious about systems, how investments grow, how businesses scale, how ideas compound. So, I began to redirect my curiosity. I asked the wealthy questions. I read books that made me uncomfortable. I started looking not just for answers, but for understanding. And the magic is this: curiosity pays. Every new skill you learn, every conversation you initiate, every book you read expands your earning potential. When you feed your curiosity, your mind begins to connect ideas. And those ideas turn into opportunities, new products, smarter investments, better decisions. The cash flow is simply the reward for curiosity well applied. So don't let your curiosity die in the comfort of what you already know. Ask questions relentlessly. Study success as if your future depends on it, because it does. Every answer you uncover is another door to possibility, another step toward financial independence. Stay curious, and soon your curiosity will start sending you checks. I've always said that a life worth living is a life worth recording. Your journal isn't just a notebook. It's a private bank of wisdom, experience, and insight. When used properly, it becomes one of the most powerful wealth-building tools you'll ever own. I began journaling not because I was told to, but because I was tired of learning the same lessons twice. I realized that if I could capture my thoughts, my wins, my mistakes, and my observations, I could turn experience into a strategy, and strategy into success. You see, most people go through life repeating their mistakes because they never stop long enough to analyze them. They lose money, they miss opportunities, they waste time, and they call it bad luck. But luck favors the reflective mind. When you write down what happened, what worked, and what didn't, you begin to see patterns. You start to identify what decisions brought results and which ones led you astray. That's when wisdom is born, not from experience alone, but from evaluated experience. I used to carry a small journal everywhere I went. After meetings, I'd jot down what I learned. After reading a book, I'd summarize the key ideas. When I made a financial mistake, I'd record the cause, the consequence, and the correction. Over time, those pages became a roadmap. I could flip back and see how far I'd come, what habits paid off, and what principles never failed me. That book became my personal treasure, not of money, but of the ideas that created it. So start today. Write about your spending habits, your goals, your lessons from success and failure. Make your journal a mirror for your progress and a blueprint for your future. Because if you keep good notes, you'll never lose the wisdom that builds wealth. Some of the most valuable assets you'll ever own won't sit in a bank account, hang on a wall, or carry a price tag. They're invisible: skills, reputation, relationships, integrity, discipline, wisdom. These are the assets that never depreciate, never get taxed away, and never vanish in a bad economy. In fact, they grow stronger the more you use them. When I was young, I thought wealth was about having money. Later, I discovered it's about becoming the kind of person money is attracted to. That's the secret. To build invisible assets long before you build visible ones. Think about skills. Every new skill you develop multiplies your value. When I learned how to speak, it changed everything. Not just financially, but personally. One skill opened the door to a lifetime of opportunity. Skills turn effort into leverage. While others work for dollars, you work for expansion. Then there's reputation, your invisible credit line. People do business with those they trust. And trust isn't built overnight, it's built every day through consistency, honesty, and follow-through. One good reputation can open more doors than money ever could. I've seen people lose fortunes but rebuild quickly because their name still carried weight. And don't forget relationships. Wealth flows through people. Every opportunity, every breakthrough, every idea worth pursuing comes through human connection. The question is, do you invest in relationships the way you invest in stocks? Do you listen, serve, and add value without expecting a return right away? Because when you do, you create an invisible network that pays dividends for life. So build what can't be stolen: your knowledge, your character, your relationships. Because when life takes away what's visible, it's your invisible wealth that helps you rebuild again. Stronger, wiser, and freer than before. Time is the currency that funds every dream, every business, every fortune. Yet, it's the one resource people spend the most carelessly. You can lose money and earn it back, but once an hour is gone, it's gone forever. That's why I learned early on to treat my time like I treated my money, with respect, attention, and protection. When I began blocking my hours with intention, my income started to reflect my priorities. It's a simple principle. The more disciplined you are with time, the more freedom you gain later. When I was younger, I'd waste hours on idle talk, unplanned days, or distractions disguised as opportunities. My mentor once said, "Don't spend major time on minor things." That line changed my life. I started asking myself before every activity, is this building me or draining me? Is this investment of time moving me closer to wealth or keeping me where I am? The answers were sometimes uncomfortable, but they were always revealing. Most people protect their wallet but leave their calendar wide open. They let others schedule their days, dictate their energy, and interrupt their focus. But remember, if you don't value your time, no one else will. Set boundaries like you would with money. Say no to distractions, limit unproductive habits, and schedule learning. Work and rest with precision. Think of every focused hour as compound interest. It builds over time, quietly but powerfully. I used to set appointments with myself, just like I would with a client. Those hours were sacred for reading, reflection, planning, or execution. Because in the end, wealth is built not just in what you do, but in what you refuse to waste. Guard your hours fiercely, and your future will reward you for every minute you defended wisely. If you want financial freedom, you've got to live by rules that don't bend with emotion or circumstance. See, discipline is remembering what you want long after the mood has left you. When I was broke and trying to climb out of debt, I realized that my money problems weren't about income, they were about inconsistency. Every time I got a little extra, I'd find a reason to spend it. That's when I learned the power of personal money rules, laws that I would never break no matter what happened around me. One of my first rules was simple. I always saved first. Even when the amount seemed too small to matter, I saved. Another was, I never touched my investments. No emergencies, no special occasions. Those rules built structure, and that structure built peace. You see, freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from knowing exactly what you will and won't do. When you have rules, you don't need to rely on willpower every day. The decision has already been made. I remember one winter when money was tight. The temptation to dip into savings was strong, but the rule was stronger. I found another way to make it work, and that decision reinforced my confidence more than any paycheck could. Rules like, I pay myself before anyone else, or I don't spend tomorrow's money today, become the invisible walls that protect your wealth from impulse and error. The wealthy don't get rich by accident. They design their behavior with intention. And those rules, written, remembered, and practiced, are the foundation of that design. So, decide today what your unbreakable money rules are. Honor them like sacred promises, and you'll never have to live by chance again. Structure creates freedom, and rules build the structure that lasts. One of the great tests of character comes not when you're broke, but when your income starts to rise. That's when most people lose control. The moment they get a raise, they upgrade their car, move into a bigger apartment, or add more subscriptions they never needed. They call it rewarding themselves, but what they're really doing is trading future freedom for temporary comfort. I learned long ago that the secret to wealth isn't how much you make, it's how much of the increase you keep and put to work. When I got my first big commission check, I remember how tempted I was to celebrate. But my mentor said, Don't let lifestyle rise faster than income. That's how people stay broke at every level. So instead of spending, I decided to save half of every raise and invest the rest. It wasn't easy. It required saying no to short-term pleasures. But over time, that decision became one of the most powerful wealth-building habits of my life. Think of it this way. Every raise is a gift of options. You can buy more things that fade, or you can buy freedom that lasts. If your expenses stay the same while your income grows, that gap, that beautiful difference, becomes your seed money for investments, opportunities, and security. Most people let that gap disappear the moment it shows up. The wealthy, however, protect it and multiply it. When your income rises, resist the urge to rise with it. Keep your lifestyle grounded and let your wealth take off instead. Redirect that extra money into savings, education, or something that earns while you sleep. It's not about denying yourself. It's about designing your future. Let every raise work for your freedom, not your fleeting desires. That's how you make progress permanent. One of the smartest things you can do on your journey to financial freedom is to create what I call money checkpoints. You see, most people drift financially. They work hard, pay bills, make purchases, and hope that somehow things will get better. But wealth doesn't come to the drifters. It comes to the deliberate. You can't improve what you never review. Just like a pilot doesn't take off without checking the course every few miles, you shouldn't move through life without checking your financial direction every few months. When I first started managing my money, I'd set aside a little time every 30, 90, and 180 days to sit down with a notepad and ask myself some tough questions. Where did the money go? Did I invest as much as I promised? Am I any closer to financial freedom, or am I quietly slipping backward? Those checkpoints were uncomfortable because the numbers told the truth, and the truth demands change. But over time, that discipline became a mirror that showed me exactly where I stood and what needed to improve. At the 30-day mark, it's about awareness, tracking habits, noticing leaks, and making quick corrections. At 90 days, it's about direction. Are you saving and investing consistently? By 180 days, it's about progress. Can you see measurable growth in your assets or reduction in your debts? These checkpoints keep you from wandering off course. Wealth isn't built in one big leap. It's built by consistent course corrections along the way. So make it a ritual. Schedule those reviews, even if it's just you and your journal at the kitchen table. Look your finances in the eye and ask, am I getting closer to freedom or drifting away? The answer will shape the decisions that shape your destiny. Most people hear the word discipline and immediately think of restriction, rules, limits, and missed pleasures. But that's not what discipline really is. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. It's not a prison, it's protection. It's the quiet structure that guards your dreams from the chaos of impulse. I used to think discipline meant denying myself all the good things in life.